In the theater of global opinion, China is often cast in a role written by others, a monolith, a caricature, a nation understood through a handful of sensationalized headlines. But what if the script is wrong? What if the China we think we know is just a reflection of our own myths? Today, we're not just scratching the surface. We're going deeper, armed with facts to dismantle 5 of the most persistent and misleading myths about the world's second-largest economy. If you're ready for a genuine, evidence-based discussion, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. You won't want to miss the deep dives we have planned. Asterisk. Myth 1. China is a classic hardline communist state. This is perhaps the most foundational misunderstanding. The term communist conjures images of a Soviet-style, centrally planned economy where all property is public. The reality of modern China is far more complex. While the country is a single-party state led by the Communist Party of China's CPC, its economic system has been fundamentally transformed. Beginning in 1978, Deng Xiaoping's reform and opening up policy introduced market principles. Today, China operates under a model officially termed socialism with Chinese characteristics, but better understood globally as a state capitalist system. The state retains control over strategic pillar industries like energy, telecommunications, and finance. However, a massive and dynamic private sector is the primary engine of its growth. As of 2022, the private sector contributes over 60% of China's GDP, over 70% of its technological innovation, and provides over 80% of its urban employment. Companies like Alibaba, Tencent, and Huawei are private enterprises, not state-owned entities. So, while the political sphere is tightly controlled by the CPC, the economic sphere is a hybrid, market-driven powerhouse that bears little resemblance to traditional communism. Myth 2. China only copies. It cannot truly innovate. This stereotype is a relic of the 1990s and early 2000s, when China was the world's factory, known for producing replicas. To apply that label today is to ignore a seismic shift. China is now on a trajectory to become a global science and technology leader. Let's look at the data. In 2023, China's R&D spending reached a record 3.3 trillion yuan, or about 2.64% of its GDP, a figure that has consistently risen for years. In 2022, China filed more international patents than any other country for the 4th consecutive year, submitting over 70,000 applications. It's not just about quantity. China is a world leader in specific high-tech fields. It has more installed 5G base stations than the rest of the world combined. It dominates the global supply chain for solar panels and electric vehicle batteries. In the realm of digital economy, its mobile payment penetration is over 85%, creating a cashless society that is years ahead of most Western nations. From gene editing to quantum computing, China is no longer just catching up. It's forging ahead. Myth 3. China's economy is a house of cards on the verge of collapse. For years, headlines have predicted an imminent hard landing for China's economy. It's often pointing to its high debt levels, real estate bubbles, and demographic challenges. While these are serious headwinds, the collapse narrative misses the bigger picture. First, China's debt structure is different. Unlike Western nations where debt is largely external, the majority of China's debt is internal load by one state-controlled entity to another. This gives the government significant control to manage and restructure debt to prevent a systemic crisis. Second, while the property sector, which once accounted for nearly a quarter of the economy, is undergoing a painful correction, the government is actively working to deflate this bubble without crashing the entire system. Most importantly, China is actively transitioning its economic model from one based on investment and exports to one driven by domestic consumption and high-tech manufacturing. This is a difficult pivot, but with a domestic market of 1.4 billion people and a rapidly growing middle class, the potential for consumption-led growth is immense. The economy is slowing, yes, but a slowdown is not a collapse. It's a sign of a maturing economy shifting gears. Myth 4. A single, all-seeing social credit system monitors and ranks every citizen. The idea of a single nationwide social credit score, like a financial credit score but for all behavior, is a dystopian vision that has captured the global imagination. It's also a myth. The reality is far more fragmented. There is no single, unified national system. Instead, there are dozens of pilot programs run by local governments and private companies. The People's Bank of China operates a financial credit database, similar to Experian or Equifax. Meanwhile, various municipal governments have experimented with systems that reward things like volunteering and punish things like traffic violations. These systems are not interconnected. A low score in Shanghai for jaywalking does not affect your ability to get a loan in Beijing. The most notorious blacklists are managed by the court system and primarily target laolai, or debtors, who have defaulted on court judgments, restricting their ability to travel or make luxury purchases. While the potential for a more unified system exists and raises valid concerns about privacy and surveillance, the current reality is not the monolithic Orwellian nightmare it's often portrayed to be. Asterisk. Myth 5. China is an aggressive, expansionist, military power seeking global domination. China's rapid military modernization and its assertive stance in the South China Sea have fueled concerns about its global ambitions. However, labeling this as simple aggression overlooks critical context. For over a century, which China calls the century of humiliation, the country was invaded and colonized by foreign powers. This history has deeply ingrained a never-again mentality into its national psyche and defense policy, which is officially one of active defense. China's military buildup is aimed at securing its perceived sovereign territory, like Taiwan, and protecting its vital sea lanes, on which its economy depends. While its military budget is the second largest in the world, it is still less than a third of the United States budget. Furthermore, China has only one official overseas military base in Djibouti. Compared to the nearly 750 bases and installations the U.S. maintains worldwide, its actions in the South China Sea are a source of major regional tension. But they are driven by a strategy of regional dominance and resource security, not a plan for global conquest in the traditional sense. Understanding this defensive and regionally focused mindset is key to interpreting its military posture accurately. The myths we've busted today are not just simple falsehoods. They are oversimplifications that obscure a complex and rapidly changing reality. They prevent us from engaging with China in a nuanced and effective way. The real China is not a communist relic, a copycat nation, a collapsing economy, an Orwellian dystopia, or a global aggressor. It is a hybrid nation, an innovation engine, a resilient economy, a fragmented digital society, and a regionally focused power with a deep sense of its own history. By moving past the myths, we can begin to understand the world as it is, not as we imagine it to be.